That was a live recording of Cat Squirrel.
Heard through the HVAC system.
Just echoing. I'll put an echo on that.
It's time to take your blanket out of the dryer, put the ferret to bed for the night, and make yourself a plate of cheese and crackers. That's right. It's time for Talk Tull to Me.
This is week 7, I think.
Yep. No land in sight.
Week 7 on Talk Tull to Me. Another double feature.
That's right. So Nick, which songs are we going to be listening to today?
We've got Cat's Squirrel, which is a cover, technically.
And an instrumental.
Followed up by a song for Jeffrey.
A song for Jeffrey.
Yep, just one, though.
One song.
Just a single song for Jeffrey. I always wished that my name was Jeffrey when I was a kid, just so this song could be for me.
You did not.
That's true. I was too old to be into such shenanigans.
I'm so glad that your name isn't Jeffrey. We would not be friends.
I don't think so. No, I don't think I'd be friends with me either for Jeffrey. So a little background on Cat Squirrel.
Yeah.
Originally, it was created by the American blues singer Charles Isaiah, the harmonica boss Ross. Recorded originally in 1953 under the title of Mississippi Blues. He recorded it again in 1956 when he retitled it as Cat Squirrel, not possessive.
Oh, really?
Yep, the original was Cat Squirrel.
Cat Squirrel.
There were lyrics. He had lyrics in between the peals of harmonica.
There is a cat, he's got a squirrel.
That's it.
I see a cat, he's got a squirrel.
Yep. And then in 1966, Clapton, as part of Cream, reworked it. And then again, Mick Abrams got his blistered finger. Got blisters on me fingers. Got his blistered fingers on it and reworked it for This Was.
That's the album that we're talking about today.
What?
So it's a song that has been passed around in the musical scene for a couple of years up to this point. It's been in the public consciousness, and now it's time for the nice young gentleman over at Jethro Tull to take their crack at it.
It's a pretty lively, bouncy tune. I think it feels, even though a lot of the other ones, particularly leading up to this, like Serenade, Dharma, even It's Breaking Me Up, they're on the quicker side a little bit, but they just don't feel. It feels like they're back in their groove for this one, even though it is a cover. There seems to be a little bit more emotion behind it, as opposed to just like, oh, okay, now we're playing this one.
Well, in the kind of, we've noticed before on some of these songs that the more heavily influenced Mick Abrams songs seem to enliven drummer Clive Bunker.
True, he's super splashy in this.
He's so splashy. He's splashing all around. And, and I think that obviously all of this is speculation, but I do feel like I'm sort of starting to form a theory in my head of musical interpersonal dynamics. And that theory is that Clive Bunker liked to play the drums.
Nailed it.
Especially on the Mick Abrams songs. And, in this album, and we're not the first people to say this, but hopefully you're the first people to hear us say this. No. Hopefully we're the first people who you heard.
Keep trying. Keep going.
We're not the first people who've said this, but hopefully we're the first people whom you have heard say this.
Okay.
Did I get that right?
Yeah.
But in the album This Was, there's a constant tension between Mick Abrams and Ian Anderson. And on this track, the pendulum has swung to Abrams land, clearly.
Yeah.
This is really, for my listening money, for my ear dollars, sort of a vehicle for Mick to have sort of an electric overdrive improvisational wet dream.
Yeah, super guitar in this,
and a very specific kind of playing. It's like that 1960s, like, yeah, we're playing the blues, a disregard for rhythm and such, and let the drummer take care of it. And he just sort of, he goes on this guitar journey. The question that I have is, does he take us with him?
That was deep. That wasn't meant to be a joke. It was a genuine statement.
I'm not used to hearing those.
Yeah, the last two songs were Ian Anderson, and in fact, the next two songs are Ian Anderson. So this is basically Mick's last hurrah on this album, essentially.
Yeah.
I could see a moment of Ian and Mick in the studio. Ian doesn't want to include Cat Squirrel, and Mick's like, I'll record 4 more songs of yours. Even it's breaking me up, I'll record if you let me record Cat Squirrel.
I think the way that it happened is that everyone except for Abrams and Bunker went down the road to get a pack of smokes. And while they were gone, Mick and Clive just sat down and whacked this one out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hear anything else other than...
There's literally no... There's 0 other instruments. I mean, maybe there are, but it's really like, in listening to it, it's all I hear are the 2 of them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice and energetic. I like that about it. But it does get really, even more so than Dharma, it gets really jam bandy for me.
I agree.
And it's kind of unpalatable when, and again, I think we mentioned this in earlier casts. It gets slightly unpalatable for those of us who grew up on Tull 5 years down the road, because this is so not Jethro Tull.
Yeah, in its later forms, certainly.
Yeah, like I could play a song for Jeffrey, Beggar's Farm, and then Cat Squirrel to a complete stranger and say, which one is not, which 2 are the same band and which one is different.
Right.
And I bet they'd pick Cat Squirrel.
Yeah.
As their ringtone.
Oh my God. So just interesting to note that in the liner notes of This Was, Cat Squirrel was included, quote, because people like it, end quote.
I didn't see that. That's fantastic.
Bitterman, Party 1.
Because people like it.
Yeah. Which implies to me that not everyone in the band liked it. I'll give you a dozen guesses to guess which person most didn't like it.
They all rhyme with Krian Cranderson.
Well, and of note, it seems that Abrams later performed this same song with Bloodwind Pig.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like it was a Jethro Tull original,
right? And it's not like people didn't like it.
Yeah, apparently people did.
Why not? So why not take that along with him when he left? Yeah,
yeah. It's not like Tull was going to be playing it.
Certainly not.
Yeah,
certainly not.
I think it's pretty poignant that it's about halfway through the second side, because it almost feels to me like, okay, sorry Mick, this is it. You're gonna help us finish this album, and then we're done. We're parting ways.
Interesting.
It almost feels like, and I'm sure they didn't record them in that order, but still, like,
right.
It feels like there comes a certain point where they kind of made that decision, or maybe not. Like, I don't know the story of it, but it just in terms of how they decided to build the progression of the songs on this album. It feels like that's the climax of the album, and then it goes down, and it's just Ian Anderson coming down the other side of that hill. What happened to Mick? That's what that feels like to me. I have no basis, in fact, in that statement.
And this is a good time to remind our listeners that much of this podcast is pure speculation,
pure and unadulterated.
If you want facts, then you wouldn't be listening to us now, would you?
Bing bong, there it is.
Have another cracker, and let's move on to A Song for Jeffrey. Nick.
Omen.
I am so excited that we get to talk about this song right now. A Song for Jeffrey.
Why?
It's so freaking good.
It's so good. It is so good. It does not belong on this album.
Well, you know what? In fact, it isn't just on this album. And I think this is going to be a good indication of the uniqueness and the effect of this song. This song was included, of course, on 1968's This Was. It was also included in 1972's Living in the Past, 1988's 20 Years of Jethro Tull, 1993's the 25th Anniversary Box Set, 1993's the Best of Jethro Tull, 1971's Aqualung re-release.
Yes, that's true. It's a bonus track on Aqualung.
The 1996 Rolling Stones Rock and Roll Circus, and the very best of Jethro Tull 2001. So it is consistently making the cut for the best songs of Jethro Tull throughout the years, and even the best songs of rock and roll.
Yeah. Out of hundreds of Jethro Tull songs, out of songs that are much better known by the public, it still makes it through. This song, to me, the sound, I feel like it belongs on Benefit.
Oh, I was going to say it belongs on that golden record that they shot into outer space.
I mean, maybe it is at this point.
I don't think that it is.
No, it's on the golden MP3 that they shot into space. I think some of that has to do with the fact that I got the cassette of Benefit and This Was at the same time.
Okay.
So they're probably, in terms of me listening to them and listening to those tapes over and over and over, they happen at the same time. But I think they have that same sound.
I agree. I think that there's something sort of forward moving about the style of this song. I mean, it almost feels like this is one of the songs that a lot of this album feels a little bit stuck in its context and a little bit like this is what we have to play to make it in 1968 London. This feels like one of the songs that's just like really out there. Ian Anderson is clearly pursuing his artistic drive. He's able to get everyone to follow along with him, and it's totally unique. I mean, nothing like this sound had happened before this recording,
and it's like it's a foreshadowing of what's of the next at least two albums.
Totally.
Stand Up and Benefit totally sound like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this goes back, I think, a little bit to Cat Squirrel. They just did mix. This is my last song. This is my swan song. And then Ian's like, you know what? We're gonna put my song on this one too.
Well, and it's so cool to hear this because let's say we're comparing it to Cat Squirrel, which we are. In Cat Squirrel, it's basically 5 minutes and 20 seconds of like nonstop guitar and drums.
Yeah.
This is a cunning and well-balanced, vivacious interplay between Ian Anderson's incredible flute licks and riffs with a little bunker sneaking through when the time is right.
Mm-hmm.
Abrams is supporting the guitar with those kind of sliding chord progressions, and it all drives toward this incredible, unique sound. I don't know who's playing bass on this song. I forget.
Who was bass at the time? This album, this song. It was Cornick. It was Glenn Cornick on bass.
Oh, and you can actually hear his bass on this song.
Yeah,
you can distinctly hear all the parts.
Mm-hmm. And there's some harmonica in here that I do actually enjoy. I like the harmonica in this.
You forgot to take your pills, didn't you?
My harmonica pills, yeah. My D harmonica pills. I like what he's doing with his voice here. It's fun. It's a little tweak. It's a little different. He doesn't do it very often after this at all. But it's almost like he's got a filter on there.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure it is.
I wanted to talk about that because I feel like for this one song, for whatever reason, he's created some kind of a character. Because he's singing with a different voice.
Yeah.
He's doing some weird vocal things, like on the I don't see where I'm going to. He's doing that weird kind of like, I don't see where I'm going.
Yeah.
It's like he rarely does that sort of thing on any other song. And it almost seems to me like he's created a character who is singing this song.
Mm-hmm.
Which is really bizarre, but for whatever reason it really works.
Yeah. Two things.
Yes.
It's like if Sammy Davis Jr. wanted to start singing rock and roll with that voice. You know,
Sammy Davis Jr.
Oh,
was he a baseball player?
You may have to cut this because we lost our Sammy Davis Jr. crowd just now.
Both of them.
He was a part of the Rat Pack. He had one eye. He's talked like this, baby. Sammy and Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra. He was with them.
Oh,
wow.
Okay.
I'll have to put in a clip here.
And though it may be just once in a lifetime, I'm gonna do great things.
But also, he sounds like
pause for technical difficulties.
There's in a bit of Fry and Laurie, when they almost every episode or every other episode, they'll cut to Hugh Laurie just sitting at a piano singing,
right?
Especially in the earlier seasons. And there's one in, I think it's the second, what do they call it? Series, the second series,
right?
Where he sings a song with that voice.
Mystery. All my life has been a mystery. You and I were never ever meant to be. That's why I call my love for you a mystery.
Okay. And that's all I could think about when I was hearing that voice.
But I don't feel like Ian Anderson is imitating any known singer that I've ever heard in this case. It really feels like something came to him and he was like, this is how I've got to sing this.
Is this perhaps a hint at future prog roots? You know, being a character throughout the whole thing, telling a story throughout the whole thing?
Maybe it is. I mean, maybe it is. I think that, I think that we know that Ian Anderson is in some ways like a fundamentally shy person. I believe he said that in interviews.
Mm-hmm. He screamed it from his balcony.
And I certainly think that creating a character is a way of giving yourself a little mask, a little permission to go really far with artistic things than you might otherwise do. I mean, he wouldn't be the first person to do that by a long shot.
Yeah.
Or the last. I mean, that's kind of what Ziggy Stardust was. That's like,
just gonna say Bowie, yeah.
Also, our good friend that we have the other podcast about, Nicki Minaj, she has several characters that she raps as. We do not have a Nicki Minaj
It's
podcast.
called Nick and Omen. No, I had it. I tried it.
Woo.
I couldn't. It hurt. It hurt. This song, maybe this has something to do with the voice. The song is dedicated to Jeffrey Hammond, who is an old friend from Blackpool, where they started.
Who invented the claghorn, did he not?
No, Ian Anderson did.
No, I don't think he did.
You might be right. But he played the bass for two bands that Ian Anderson was in prior to Jethro Tull. The Blades and the John Evan Band, with John Evans, interesting, Ian Anderson and Barrymore Barlow, who I think also shows up in the Tull lineup at some point. And then he joins, Jeffrey Hammond joins Tull as the bass player after Glenn Cornick leaves.
Yeah.
Right before Aqualung. So Hammond is in Aqualung for the first time.
They knew each other from when they were 17 years old.
So only 4 years prior to
Wow,
Tull.
That's so crazy.
But yeah, 63 to 67. So they must have met in the Blades. That sounded really dramatic, but that's just the name of the band.
A song for Jeffrey. You may be wondering, who is Jeffrey? Jeffrey is Jeffrey Hammond, the musician, painter, and inventor of the claghorn. A high school friend of Ian Anderson's. Anderson wrote a number of songs about Jeffrey, including Song for Jeffrey.
Surprise.
Jeffrey Goes to Leicester Square. And
For Michael Collins, Jeffrey and Me.
Right, on Benefit. So it seems like he was describing and singing as Jeffrey Hammond in this song.
Right. Because it's what about the part where he just he portrays him as like losing his way or bumbling or something like that?
Right. He sort of describes him, and if you look at the lyrics, it's talking about somebody who's impulsive, who doesn't know where they're going, who sees possibilities in every new day and maybe goes after everything a little bit, but never gets anywhere.
And I got that he intentionally chooses to be this way.
Yeah.
He chooses not to look. He chooses to just kind of wander.
Well, I mean, I'm getting the impression of like a wandering poet figure, like a sort of almost like a mystical, like the Holy Fool type.
Sure. Falstaff.
Yeah. And I can totally see why that sort of personality would appeal to Ian Anderson, because everything that we know about Ian Anderson makes him seem like a kind of a rigid person in some ways.
Right. I mean, who knows in 67, what he was like. But it feels, by befriending Hammond and by singing about him and as him.
Right. He was clearly an inspiration.
It's a vicarious thing, just for a little bit, at least.
Right.
Fascinating. That's what I get out of it.
Yeah. I think this is something that we are going to want to explore as we get to those later songs.
Yeah. Which are just the next two albums, I believe, right?
Right. So you should be hearing those within the next 2 years or so. The
next two albums, and then he's in the band, so why would they sing about him?
Boom.
Done. Anything else about Song for Jeffrey? What do you think?
Oh, yeah. There's one little detail that I want to point out. The end of the song is this flutter tongue fade, as if the song is fading away entirely. And then, psych, it comes back for one final and that's something that occurs in a lot of other Jethro Tull songs down the line. It seems to be like a favorite kind of trick almost, is to make the listener think that you're fading away and then bring it back for one final hurrah.
Yeah, it's a good little classic rock bump on the end. Yeah. Yeah, it's nice. It finally feels like good old fashioned rock to me.
Yeah. But of a very new kind that we haven't really heard before.
Yeah, a new flavor of old-fashioned rock. It has an old feel to it, but it also sounds so different than anything that I've heard from that era.
Let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
If Song for Jeffrey was an ice cream, what kind of ice cream would it be?
I think it would be vanilla with sea salt.
Really?
Chunks of sea salt. Pink Himalayan salt. So it's not sea salt.
Like massive cubes of salt, actually.
Well, not massive, but enough to crunch.
Right. So that you notice it.
Yeah. And you don't know that those are in there. It's not advertised with those.
I see.
And the ice cream itself is less sweet than a standard vanilla because you're going to be getting that salt.
Right.
So you take that initial taste and it's like, oh, that's okay. That's an interesting way to do this.
Crunch.
And then you crunch. You're like, whoa.
Yeah.
I see why now.
Yeah.
So something we haven't.
The gerbil is waking up.
quietly. The gerbil's sleeping. Something we haven't said before, I don't think. It would be pretty cool if you could rate and review us on any cast platform. I'm not going to name one in particular. You all know which one that it is the most powerful. We don't need to give them power by naming them.
Wow. Yeah.
But if you could give us 5 stars, only 5 stars, please. And
alternatively,
5 1-star reviews? I'd rather not. No, that would be terrible. Rate and review us. So I don't have to tell you to subscribe because you're already subscribed. This is episode 7. Who picks up on episode 7? So I don't need to tell you that. But if we get some fun reviews, maybe we'll read them in the show.
Yeah. How's that for bribery?
How's that?
You want your words read on a podcast, kid? Here's your big chance.
Be ashamed to see these words not read out loud. So that was Cat Squirrel.
Yeah.
And A Song for Jeffrey.
That's right.
We've got 2 more episodes. The final song on this album proper, Round, and then 3 of the bonus tracks. But you're just going to have to come back next week for the first of those last 2.
That's right. So whether this podcast has been your morning wake-up podcast with that first cup of yerba mate, or your lunchtime podcast with your espresso with lemon,
or your lunchtime podcast with your 7th cup of yerba mate,
or your nightcap podcast. Oh, that's a reference to a Jethro Tull song, you see. We hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day, whatever it holds, and we will see you next week. I'm Omen Said.
I'm Nick McGill.
And we are Feckless Moans.
Oh, we were so close there. I thought you always hesitate.
Talk Tull to me.
Good.
We have heard John Rhys Davies take the lead. That's not his name.
That's not his name at all.
What's the name of the guitarist?
Mick Abrams? Oh, hey there. Talk Tull to Me is a proud member of the Feckless Moans audio network.